So tell me, Neil, is the Earth flat?
It's showtime.
We have video from space of the rotating spherical Earth. The Earth is round.
Well, I hope this isn't the footage Neil is talking about, because the Earth spins one way and the stars spin another way. And in this footage, there's no perspective in the landmass or in the clouds. You cannot fake perspective, and there is no perspective in these images. For example, things that are closer will speed up as they move towards you. The clouds further away will move slower. Also, a house, for example, you would see the front of the house, and as the house got closer it would turn. Then you would see the side of the house. And the same would happen with the trees and all objects in the distance. So speed and angle changes as things get closer. We don't see that in these images, so this footage is CGI, it's fake. Also, the camera angle's at this angle, and that's the size of the Earth. Then all of a sudden, from the same ISS, it's this size. That means the ISS now would have to move away from the Earth. So it's simple. All they need to do is focus the camera on the moon, and as the ISS spins around the moon, you'll see one side of the moon and the other side of the moon all within a few minutes. And you'll see the sun whiz by, and you'll see the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, rotate at an angle. You see, they can't fake that. That's why we don't see that.
It's showtime.
What's odd is there are people who think Earth is flat,
Right.
but recognize that the moon is round. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and the sun are all spheres, but Earth is flat. That's not, something doesn't square.
Something doesn't jive, right?
Okay.
Well, it does square if there are lights. You see, you have lights in your lounge, but your sofa's flat, your tables are flat, the shelves are flat, and the floor is flat. The lights can be round. See, the sun, moon, and stars, that's what they are. They are lights. In your lounge, or in your dining room, for example, the table's flat, the trays are flat, pictures are flat, floor is flat, the lights are round. So things do square on the flat Earth.
It's showtime.
Plus, in my latest book, ooh, did I just plug my
Wait,
book?
your latest book is called Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. What? We just happen to have a copy right
Well,
here.
thank you, Neil. When I'm in a hurry, I have a special shelf for your book. Hopefully you print them in bulk so I can buy one, get one free.
It's showtime.
Processes unfold in the universe, how that conspire to make things round.
So it favors the sphere.
Favors a sphere, yes.
Right.
And if something's not a sphere, it's a little bit flattened, you can ask what flattened it, and you find out, oh, it's rotating real fast.
Right.
So then it gets a little flattened.
Well, you're just
because of-
contradicting yourself, Neil. So if water flattens when it's spinning, why isn't the water on the Earth flattening? Because it's not a solid. Why is the gas and the clouds not flattening, Neil? You're just contradicting yourself. How does gas spin and stay in a ball, Neil?
It's showtime.
Okay, back in the day.
Back in the day,
Kind of just like...
you just say whatever you
Right.
felt.
You know what? I believe that elephant poop will cure cancer.
There you go.
That's right. Wrote a paper about it. Like to read it? Here it is.
Here's some elephant poop from you, Neil.
The full width of a room away. Mars, a mile away from a schoolroom globe, if it was shrunk to that size.
Are we going to get there?
There are only two ways we can get there. One is if China tomorrow says they want to put military bases on Mars.
Then we would go.
We'd be there in 10 months. 1 month to design, fund, build, and engineer the
You
spacecraft.
bet.
9 months to get
Really,
there.
Neil? Military bases on Mars, Neil. And then a nice laugh, as if we can't see through your acting, Neil. You think we're stupid, Neil? That's your problem.
Universe. And so anyone who's actually studied the problem would say, sure. The statistics strongly argue in favor of life. Now, whether it's intelligent life that we would call intelligent, here's you want to lose sleep? Maybe there's life that's so intelligent, it doesn't consider us to be intelligent.
Neil, there are many humans who don't consider you intelligent, Neil. Never mind aliens that don't exist.
Is it therefore hubris to believe in God?
It would be, I think, if your God created the whole universe just to put you in it.
Neil, Georges Lemaitre created the universe. God created the earth and put man on earth. The Bible says nothing about these galaxies, Neil, that only you people can see in your telescopes. And that this galaxy is missing in all your other images, Neil. It's a bit strange, don't you think?
So you can't appeal to our special chemistry because it's everywhere. Now, how many locations might you have life? If life existed on a planetary surface, how many planets are out there? Well, we've got an inventory in the making right now. The Kepler telescope, which recently had some mechanical failures, but not before it gave us a list of 1,000 planets out there orbiting stars that are nearby the sun. And that's just in our little pocket of the Milky Way galaxy.
So,
So you run the numbers and you realize it would be inexcusably egocentric to suggest that we were alone.
Well, Neil, isn't it just as egotistic to suggest we're not alone when you do not have proof of it, Neil? Even though you have a telescope that's giving you a list of galaxies or planets or whatever. You see, Neil, it smells like propaganda. You want us to give you a lot of money so that you can save us from the sky falling on our heads, or that you can save us from a alien invasion, or you can save us from asteroids eating and falling on us, Neil. It sounds like a money-making ploy, Neil. It doesn't sound like the truth.
It's showtime!
How obvious you think it is that it's true, you should still test it.
Gotcha.
There could be something fooling you in one way or another.
Right, Neil. Something fooling us in one way or another. Because they want our money and they want our confidence. And they want our trust.
It's showtime!
Then, for example, lunar eclipses. What's a lunar eclipse? If your face is the brilliant sun,
Thank you.
and this is Earth, and the moon is over here, the sun is always casting Earth's shadow into space. It's always there no matter what.
Right.
Obviously, okay? It's just a shadow.
It's a shadow.
The moon
It's just a shadow
occasionally...
shining on blackness.
yeah, a shadow in darkness.
A shadow in
So the moon occasionally passes through that shadow. And if you see the shape of Earth's shadow on the moon, it is always round.
Neil, the shadow would have to distort, Neil. So it cannot cast a perfect round shadow on the moon, Neil, because the shadow would have to distort because they're both balls, Neil. So, by your own reckoning, Neil, the Earth would cast a shadow on the moon, and the moon would cast a shadow on the Earth every month, Neil, not just occasionally during an eclipse, Neil. We see right through your gimmick.
Showtime.
Always round. If Earth were flat, sometimes you get like a flat shadow.
Right.
Well, the sun and moon are orbiting above the Earth, so the moon shadow could never fall on the Earth. And if, as in the tropics, you can see a full moon in the middle of the day, how's that possible if you're on a ball between the moon and the sun?
All right, everybody, it's showtime!
Of a arc, of a circle, no matter the orientation of the moon and the sun. And the only thing that makes a perfectly circular shadow
Would be something that's perfectly circular.
perfectly spherical.
Spherical.
Yes. So the only
Anything that, yeah, Neil, but it'd have to be on a flat surface, Neil, not a ball. A circle could cast a round shadow on a flat surface, not on a ball, Neil.
Now take your position. It's showtime.
So now if the Earth is round, how big is Earth? You might want to check for that. There's a famous experiment conducted by Eratosthenes.
Tuscany.
Eratosthenes.
Tuscany.
And the two cities in the old world, and one of them, they knew that at 12 noon on a particular day of the year,
Neil, we
That-
know the story of Eratosthenes, Neil. there's a problem with this story, Neil, is that how is it that from any given point you can already see the shadows converge? That's the one issue, Neil. So how could Eratosthenes assume parallel lines in the sun rays when we see that they're not parallel? So his assumption on parallel lines for his experiment is wrong. The second issue, Neil, is he already knew, the Egyptians already knew the drop in the Nile between Aswan and Alexandria. So in his calculations, how could he calculate a 360-mile bulge of land between Alexandria and Aswan that they knew didn't exist? Or otherwise the Nile River would have to flow uphill. So Neil, you've heard of the Caspian Sea, but have you heard of the Caspian Sea monster?
Martini once proposed a theory of the worldwide intercontinental transport. He thought of a future flying machine that could have a speed of an airplane, payload of a ship, and ability to take off from anywhere. All described are featured.
Right, Neil, so the Ekranoplane, Neil, flies at the speed of a jet airplane over a flat level body of water, Neil. And they flew them in the Caspian and the Black Sea. So there's no bulge in the Caspian or the Black Sea. It's level. So therefore the Nile River must also be level.
He had added a third. With a third well, it doesn't matter where the sun is. No flat Earth model can explain the angles of all three shadows. But the spherical model explains it all three angles.
Neil, you just did a big fib. They never used three wells, Neil. So I don't know where you get that information from. You're just making stuff up.
Hey, heads up, everybody! It's showtime!
To do this experiment, you got to measure the angles. Greeks had the angles.
Yeah.
Okay, in fact, geometry translates to Earth measurement. So one last thing, which should be obvious,
Okay.
if you pay attention and think about it. If you send a ship straight to the horizon,
Right.
eventually it begins to disappear until it's no longer visible beyond your horizon.
Right.
And you should ask yourself, what kind of surface would produce that result?
The ocean.
If it's
the ocean has a ramp.
Neil, that would mean that a person on a ship on the lookout position would always have to point his telescope down. That means if he turns around, Neil, he'll be looking into space. We know that's not true, Neil. That a person on a ship doesn't look down on the horizon. And a person, Neil, watching the ship go down cannot see the sun's reflection on the ocean with the ship's reflection, because the water be curved and the light cannot bend around a curved surface. Even more ridiculous, Neil, is the same arc that is from the ship to the observer, Neil, would have to be to the left and to the right. So if he sees a ship going below the horizon, Neil, that's silly, Neil. You'd have to see a ship falling over on his right hand side, Neil. That's how ridiculous it is. You'd have to see the same left and right as he does back and in the distance and in the front, Neil. What's wrong with you? So the Greeks may have had the angles, Neil, but we've got drones. So people send drones out and the drones fly level, Neil. They fly in a straight line. And they don't see ships popping up from the horizon, Neil, because the oceans are flat. So the Russians and drones took Eratosthenes' stick, hit him on the head, and told him to go home.
It's showtime, Phil.
Information and knowledge and evidence. If you don't have that kind of training, you'd run around believe anything.
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 Right, Neil, you believe anything if you believe you, Neil. Knowledge and evidence and understanding, Neil, point to a flat earth that's not rotating, that is fixed. What you don't want is you don't want us questioning the information you give us.
Don't say it. Please, don't say it.
No, I have to say it, Mitch.
For
Showtime.
me, the fact that there's a rise of flat earthers is evidence of two things.
Okay.
One, we live in a country that protects free speech.
That's actually kind of awesome.
And two, we live in a country with a failed educational system.
Ooh, that one hurt.
Neil, that's a compliment. You see, what you're saying is that you failed to indoctrinate everybody. You succeeded with most people, but not everyone, Neil.
So tell me, Neil, is the Earth flat?
We have video from space of the rotating spherical Earth. The Earth is round.
So Neil says that the Earth is spinning, but you can prove to yourself that the Earth is not spinning. As an example, an aeroplane flying easterly, right? It's a 6-hour flight. He leaves 6 o'clock in the morning, right? And he's flying to point B, a quarter of the distance around the Earth. Well, at the same time, point B is moving away. He has to fly faster, right? And he'd land at the sunset if it's a 6-hour flight. This doesn't happen. You see, it's not because of his position on the ball. You see, the same would happen with an airplane higher up on the ball. The principle is the same. We don't see this. Now, the opposite would happen with an airplane leaving at midday, flying from point B to point A. Right? In the 6-hour flight, he'd be standing still. He has to. You see, we don't see this. There are many flights that are 6-hour flights from one end of the ball to the other end of the so-called ball Earth. Think about an airplane flying over the northern hemisphere. It'd be spinning with the Earth. That's what they tell us. That airplane spins with the Earth. Well, if that's the case, right, an airplane would have to continue to make adjustments because it's spinning with the Earth. It would have to recalculate its position and its angle because it's spinning with the Earth. It can't fly in a straight line. We don't see this. Airplane pilots do not have to make this calculation. They just fly in a straight line. Let's illustrate it this way. Here's a man who walks across a fixed surface. He's moving from point A and he's just simply walking towards a light. He moves in a straight line. It's a short distance, right? From one end to the other end. It's a straight line. If that disc, if that ball or that disc was turning, his path now is in a spiral. He just ends up going back to where he came from. So think about time, how time would be affected. See, we don't see this with airplanes. Now think about a bird. Let's change a man for a bird. The man is attached to the ground. Now a bird flying, well, he's flying. He's not attached to the turning disc. He's flying in a straight line. He's flying through the wind. He's flying through the air. This bird cannot be spinning with the ground beneath him. It's not logical. So therefore the bird migrating from one end of the earth will just end up back to where he came from while he was flying. So this might seem strange or funny, But think about it. Look, here's something else, hypothetically speaking. Right? If I ask you, are you religious? You say, no, I believe in science. I'm not religious at all. What if, hypothetically speaking, a group of people who worshipped Baal? So, Baal, the Greek word for Baal is Helios, and the Roman word for Baal was Apollo. It's the same god. What if they took their religion and just simply painted it as science? So you believe this science, this, hypothetically speaking, this religion, you believed it, and you went along with the belief system, right? And you went along with it unknowingly. Then if I asked you, right, are you religious? Could you still say, no, I'm not religious? Because in fact, you are religious, because you're following religious principles just from a religion. You are unknowingly following a religion, and you've been fooled into following the beliefs of a certain religion. Let's just say that religion was Gnosticism, which is a religion. You're just doing it unknowingly. So for me, everybody is religious in one way or another. A belief and a system of belief. Whether you believe in a creator or you don't believe in a creator, it's a religious system. You cannot escape it. So it's worthwhile then investigating, what do I believe? Is my beliefs based on fact? Is it based on things that I've thought about? Or am I just going with the flow? So I hope this gives you something to think about. And cheers and thanks for watching.